For our last presentation, I want to welcome Dr. Karen Wendling, who is one of our conference organizers, to give a talk called A Comparison of Common Elements in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy and J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series.
All right. When considering the most popular and most widely acclaimed authors of modern young adult fantasy literature, both Philip Pullman and J.K. Rowling clearly make the list. Philip Pullman is best known for his Dark Materials series, consisting of 3 books: The Northern Lights, published as The Golden Compass in the US, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. J.K. Rowling is best known for her 7 Harry Potter novels. Both authors have books that reached the #1 spot on the New York Times bestseller list. Both have won the Carnegie Medal for Children's Literature. Even the timing of the author's writing is almost in sync. Pullman published his 3 books from 1995 through 2000, while Rowling's 7-book series spanned the years 1997 through 2007. Despite these similarities, it is worth stressing the difference in the release dates of the first book in these 2 series. Pullman's Northern Lights hit shelves on July 1995, while Rowling's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was released in late June 1997. This 2-year gap shows that Rowling had likely read Pullman's Northern Lights while she was plotting the Harry Potter series and writing the Philosopher's Stone. Even stronger evidence for Rowling's familiarity with Pullman's works comes from Rowling herself. In a rare 1999 interview at the time of the release of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, J.K. Rowling is asked, "What other books would you recommend for a 9-year-old?" Rowling's first answer is, "Anything by Philip Pullman." In another interview, this one on June 26, 2003, Rowling is asked, "Are you a fan of Philip Pullman?" Rowling's answer is, "Philip Pullman is fantastic." So clearly, Rowling appreciates and is familiar with the works of Philip Pullman. This paper considers common themes in Philip Pullman's Dark Materials series and Rowling's Harry Potter series. Please note that I'm focusing on these authors' common themes, and despite the 2-year publication gap between Pullman's first book in his series and Rowling's first book in her series, I am in no way suggesting that Rowling's ideas were borrowed from Pullman or vice versa. No lawsuits here, right? While Rowling may have been initially influenced by Pullman, the rate at which she published her books was significantly faster than Pullman. So Rowling had actually published her first 3 Harry Potter books before Pullman's 3rd and final Dark Materials book was printed, despite his sort of head start on the publishing. While we are all familiar with Rowling's Harry Potter series, it is necessary for this paper to give a brief plot summary of Pullman's Dark Materials trilogy. Though in truth, this does the story a disservice by reducing its complexity, so if you haven't read it, please go and do. Right? In The Northern Lights, aka The Golden Compass, the reader is introduced to the young main protagonist, Lyra Belacqua, and her demon, Pantalaimon, affectionately referred to as Pan. Lyra's world, set in Jordan College in Oxford, is similar to ours during the Victorian era, though with notable difference that cue the reader to the fact that this is an alternate world. All the people in this world are born with a demon, an animal-like creature that is both part of the person and a separate entity. Children's demons can shapeshift at will, but eventually settle into a single animal form during their human companion's puberty. The demons are tricky to describe as they seem to be related to a person's soul or conscience, but can also speak aloud and disagree with their human. Of note is that the demon is a constant companion. Both human and demon are pained by increasing physical separation. The demon rarely travels more than 20 feet or so away from its companion human, right? At Jordan College in Oxford, Lyra learns of the presence of dust, a mysterious substance not visible to the naked eye that surrounds adults but not children. She also sees photos of a strange city visible through the Northern Lights, a glimpse into another parallel universe. The 2 initial antagonists of the story are both involved with researching and manipulating dust. These characters are later revealed to be Lyra's parents, Lord Asriel, who is trying to break through into the alternate universe through the Northern Lights, and Mrs. Coulter, an agent for the church called the Magisterium. It is believed that dust is the evidence for original sin, so the church is interested in destroying it. This leads to children being kidnapped as research subjects, and Lyra is drawn into this plot initially to rescue one of her kidnapped friends with the help of a strange, seemingly magical device, an alethiometer, or truth seer. Lyra learns to ask questions of the alethiometer and interpret its responses to determine if something is true. In the second book of Pullman's series, Lyra has moved through the Northern Lights into a world recognizable as ours. She joins forces with the story's second main protagonist, Will Perry, who becomes the owner of a magical tool called the Subtle Knife. This knife allows Will to cut through anything, even creating doorways between alternate universes. This allows the children to move between these alternate worlds. In one universe, children roam the city of Chittagazzi. In this city, ghostly specters prey on adults, while children are seemingly invisible to these creatures. Lyra is ultimately kidnapped by her mother, Mrs. Coulter, who has learned of a prophecy that Lyra will be the next Eve and cause the fall of man. Rather than kill her daughter, as the Magisterium would want, Mrs. Coulter protects her. After being rescued by Will, both children journey to the land of the dead to free the souls who are trapped there. The story ends, sorry if you haven't read it, with Lord Asriel and Mrs. Coulter being killed as they destroy the regent Metatron, who has kept the frail god character called the Authority a prisoner. Lyra and Will free the Authority, but he peacefully dies. The fall or original sin occurs as Lyra and Will fall in love with each other, yet they are unable to live together for the rest of their lives because they are from different worlds or parallel universes. They make the difficult choice to live lives in parallel universes, never to see each other again. So sad. Throughout Pullman's books, he provides quotes from Milton's Paradise Lost, so the reader realizes that Pullman is retelling or reinterpreting Milton's work. Even this real skeleton of a plot summary of Pullman's trilogy, there are several common themes that can be identified with Rowling's Harry Potter series. Both series center around a core grouping of young adult friends from very different backgrounds. The characters of both series use magical tools, such as the wizard's wands and Pullman's titular objects of the golden compass, aka the alethiometer, the subtle knife, and the amber spyglass. And both series essentially deal with different worlds. Rowling's kind of dual wizarding world and muggle world, and then Pullman's many worlds of these parallel universes. While these characters and plot similarities are notable, a more interesting comparison of Pullman and Rowling's writing can be found in considering specific devices and entities found within both works. For the sake of time, I choose to focus on three main parallel ideas from Rowling and Pullman respectively: the Patronus and the Demon, the Dementor and the Spectre, the Horcrux and Intercision. There is a clear similarity between Pullman's demons found in Lyra's world and the Patronus charms of Rowling's. Pullman introduces the demon in the very first sentence of his trilogy, while Rowling introduces the Patronus in The Prisoner of Azkaban, published 4 years after Pullman's first book. Right? If completed properly, the Patronus charm allows the wizard to produce an animal defender against an evil foe, usually a Dementor. The Patronus requires the wizard to focus on a happy memory. It is this happiness that is seemingly distilled into this sort of spirit animal Patronus. As Rowling writes through the wizard Spangle on Pottermore, that a human confronted with inhuman evil, such as the Dementor, must draw upon resources he or she may never have needed, and the Patronus is the awakened secret self that lies dormant until needed, end quote. Clearly, Pullman's demons are also a form of the secret self, as they are inextricably linked with their human counterparts. In one of Will's early contacts with Lyra's demon Pantalaimon, in his mouse form, Will is startled that Pan can speak aloud. "Do all demons talk?" Will asked. "Of course they do," said Lyra. "Do you think he was just a pet?" It was strange for only a moment, talking to a mouse. Then it was no more strange than talking into a telephone, because he was really talking to Lyra. But the mouse was separate. There was something of Lyra in his expression, but something else too. It was too hard to work out when there were so many strange things happening at once, end quote. Another fascinating revelation about demons comes from Lyra when she first visits our world and meets Will Perry. As she addressed Will, she announced, "You have got a demon," she says decisively, "inside you. You have," she went on, "you wouldn't be human else, right? Your demon ain't separate from you. It's you, it's a part of you, you're part of each other. Ain't there anyone in your world like us? Are they all like you with their demons all hidden away?" Lyra's instinct that Will's demon resides somewhere internally is proven correct later in The Amber Spyglass, the first book in Pullman's trilogy. When Will and Lyra journey to the land of the dead, with Lyra still intent on rescuing her friend Roger, the journey across the river forces the children to part with their demons. Lyra and Pan are particularly distressed at this parting. Later in the story, the children are reunited with their demons, and Will meets his companion Kerjava as an external entity for the first time. As Pullman's story progresses, we learn that it is possible for demons to move greater distances away from their human companions. Right? The race of beings known as witches have bird demons that can carry messages or complete missions while still being spiritually connected to their companion witch. Just to note, the ability of the demon to fly is actually convenient, right? As the witches are often flying on branches of cloud pine, right? When Lyra and Roger are finally reunited with their demons, the witch Serafina Pekkala notes that now the children are like witches with effectively extendable, demon companions. And this idea is paralleled in Rowling's series. While the Patronuses are initially silent and remain spatially near the wizard Castor, later in the series we are introduced to the concept of a Patronus carrying a message. Right? This mode of communication is used by the Order of the Phoenix, and we learn that the Patronus can speak in the voice of the wizard who casts the charm. Perhaps the most significant role played by a Patronus, apart from the obvious protection, is Snape's Doe Patronus leading both Harry and Ron to Gryffindor's sword in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Finally, there is an even deeper comparison that can be made between demons and Patronuses. Their animal form seems to be related to powerful personal growth or change, such as falling in love. At the end of the Dark Materials trilogy, Will and Lyra fall in love, which is essentially a retelling of the fall of man from the Bible. As they kiss and touch each other's demons, Will's Kerjava in the form of a cat and Lyra's Pan in the form of a pine marten, Lyra knows that neither demon would ever change form again. Having felt a lover's hand on them, these were their shapes for life. They would want no other. A parallel idea holds for the Patronuses, right? It is notable that Snape's Patronus, that of a doe, is out of his lifelong love for Lily Evans, whose Patronus is also a doe. Nymphadora Tonk's Patronus changes form to that of a wolf out of her love for Remus Lupin. In an interesting dichotomy, it is love that causes Lyra and Will's demons to settle, right, to be a single form for the rest of their lives. Yet love is what can cause Rowling's Patronuses to significantly change form later in life. Further insight into Pullman's demons is found through considering the creatures known as specters. These creatures are largely invisible to children, but appear as shimmers in the air to adults. And this is a quote, "In some lights, they were hardly there at all, just visible as a drifting quality in the light, a rhythmic evanescence, like veils of transparency turning before a mirror." The specters prey on adults, being particularly attracted to some quality having to do with dust. The witches Serafina Pekkala and Rudiscati witness a specter's attack on a human man carrying a child. This is told from Serafina's perspective. What was happening to him? Serafina hovered above the water a few feet away, gazing horrified. She had heard from travelers in her own world of the legend of the vampire, and she thought of that as she watched the specter busy gorging on something, some quality the man had, his soul, his demon perhaps, for in this world, evidently, demons were inside, not outside. As Serafina rescues the child from the man's arms, she feels a hideous dullness at the edge of her heart. The specter preying on the soul of a man, which is related to the demon, leaving the man as a vacant shell, is strikingly similar to the effects of Rowling's Dementors. A Dementor attack diminishes all feelings of happiness in the prey, ultimately leading to the Dementor's kiss, the removal of the soul from the body. Rowling's description of the Dementor as a fog is also similar to Pullman's veils of transparency. It is likely that the similarities in these creatures, the specter and the Dementor, comes from the two authors' intent in their creation. Both authors intended these creatures as metaphors for depression. When asked about Dementors being a description of depression, Rowling replied, this is a quote, "Yes, that is exactly what they are. It was entirely conscious and entirely from my own experience." In Dark Matter, shedding light on Philip Pullman's trilogy, his Dark Materials, Pullman is quoted describing his own period of depression as related to the specters. I prefer to call it melancholy or melancholia. It's a horrible condition. I tried to describe it as accurately as I could. One difference between Rowling's Dementors and Pullman's specters is how they are created. In Fantastic Beasts, we learn that Dementors grow like fungi in dark, moist places, creating a dense, chilly fog. Pullman specters don't seem to be a natural occurrence. They are released from an abyss through a deliberate cutting process, the cutting of a demon from its human, or the cutting of a doorway between alternate universes using the subtle knife. The creation, or more accurately, release of a specter from cutting a window between worlds is one of the reasons Lyra and Will cannot live out their future lives together and choose to be parted at the end of the series. Yet the release of one specter by cutting a window between universes is small compared to the vast number of specters released by severing a person from his or her demon. In the emotional climax of Pullman's first book, The Golden Compass, Lyra meets her lost friend, Roger, in Bolvangar, a facility led by Mrs. Coulter, who is studying the role of dust in the transition from childhood to adulthood. She realizes that cutting a demon away from a child will prevent dust from surrounding the child during the puberty transition. The cutting process, termed intercision, kills the demon and reduces the human to a sort of soulless zombie. Lyra narrowly escapes this fate. In rescuing Roger, however, Lyra unknowingly leads him to his death at the hands of Lord Asriel. Asriel deliberately separates Roger from his demon, killing both in the process, which releases a sudden burst of energy, almost like an atomic explosion, enough to tear an opening in the Northern Lights, a gateway to another world. This permanent separation of demon, the soul, from the body is enough to release hundreds of specters. The gravity and sheer unnaturalness of such a separation, both literally in the form of the specters and figuratively, haunts the rest of Pullman's series. The separating of the soul from the body is also of central importance in Rowling's series. We see the Dementor sucking the soul from its victim, most notably in the climactic scene at the lake in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Sirius Black's life hangs in the balance. Yet perhaps an even more central theme to the entire Harry Potter series is the idea of separating soul from body. Voldemort deliberately separates portions of his soul from his body in the form of Horcruxes. These Horcruxes, their creation and destruction, is a large part of what drives Rowling's plot. As Voldemort creates more Horcruxes through acts of killing, he becomes less and less human. The creation of these Horcruxes is a type of intercision, a deliberate cutting of the soul from the body as clearly as Pullman's demons can be cut from their human counterparts. In summary, the common themes analyzed in this paper are the ideas of an external soul entity, be it a demon or Patronus, entities of depression, the specter and the Dementor, and the hazards of separating soul from body through intercision or the creation of a Horcrux. Yet in writing this paper, I feel that I have merely scratched the surface of the common threads in Pullman's Golden Compass series and Rowling's Harry Potter series. My hope is to continue this comparative analysis in the future, particularly as new material, Pullman's Book of Dust, is now available, and I haven't started it yet because we had this conference. This was more important. Yeah. Yet before I finish, I want to take a moment to reflect on the greater impact of this comparative analysis of Rowling and Pullman's writing. These common themes both warn and guide us to protect our innermost selves, our demons, from those who would wish to cut us down and alter our fundamental character, to be careful of our own choices so they do not compromise our ethics, and to do this with the threat of depression always lurking in the mist. These stories allow us to dare to journey fully into the adult realm, where we question the advice of authority and ultimately decide our own fate. Harry and Lyra shine the light ahead in our own life's quest, demonstrating for us the ideals of friendship, excellence, tolerance, courage to continue life's journey, and a willingness to sacrifice self for others. I believe that the demonstration of these ideals over a long period of character development is part of why Rowling and Pullman have had such a powerful impact. Pullman is quoted as saying, Thou shalt not is soon forgotten, but once upon a time lasts forever. I think we can say with confidence that this applies to both Pullman and Rowling's masterworks.